Okay, good evening, guys. Thanks for being with us. As most of you know, I'm Bob Watts from the Seaboard region, the Chair of Remote and Online Training for the FJMC. Tonight we're presenting the second in our series of FJMC webinars. Tonight's topic is more specialized, aimed at consultants preparing to present at convention, as well as organizers of the convention and training for consultants. So our main speaker is Dr. Bill Becker, the immediate past president of the Seaboard region, and we'll also have with us to comment and provide advice and information for consultants Bruce Tomar, Alan Budman, and past FJMC president Norm Kurtz. I also welcome, eventually when it gets on, our future president Miles Simpson and our other illustrious FJMC officers. Now, this session will be recorded and posted on YouTube for future viewing and sharing with other FJMC members. And now I'll turn it over to Bill Becker.
Thank you, Bob. We welcome everybody that is online, and we appreciate your taking time to attend this session. We're going to talk about some basic tips for public speaking and also some issues related to the convention in Boston and things that presenters need to be aware of. So let's go ahead and get started. And we'll look forward to taking questions and also comments from Bruce and Norm at the end of this. For some of you that may have not ever given a presentation, you may be a little bit nervous about doing this, and that's okay. Being a little bit nervous is good. It gets the blood flowing, and that's a good thing. We don't want you to be too nervous because then you could kind of lose yourself and not do a good job. We'll talk a little bit about controlling those butterflies, and a big part of that is being prepared. So certainly we want you to take time between now and the start of the convention to get ready to make your presentation. First of all, know your material. Hopefully you have picked something you're interested in and have good experience with. And of course, the question is, are you an expert? It's good that if you know more about your topic than you're actually going to include in your speech. Hopefully, if it's programming, if it's fundraising, if it's club administration, whatever it might be, that you have a lot of experience with that. One big tip that I would certainly have for you is to, first of all, use humor. People like a little bit of humor, things that have gone on. Not talking about telling a joke, but we all have some interesting experiences. Stories are very important. I've been a college professor now for 32 years, and the thing I have learned is the one thing that students remember. It's not the materials, it's not the book, it's not even the PowerPoint presentations. They remember the stories. So your personal experiences, things you've done, again, if it's about your fundraising that you've done, if it's about experiences you've had with programs, other issues, tell stories. Stories are great. They make it much more personal. It gives people a good example about what you've done. And try and make it conversational. You don't want to just follow along with a PowerPoint presentation. You don't want to just follow a handout. We'll talk about the handouts a little bit later. But try to make it a little bit folksy and more personal. And we said stories are good because they help that people remember, and that's what you want them to do, is remember your presentation. Oops, what is going on here? Hold on. Okay. Number two, practice, practice, practice. You want to rehearse out loud with the equipment you're using. Now, very important tip for all people making a presentation. The big question of the evening is, are you going to use audiovisual equipment? And the reason we're asking that is two things. Number one, and I've just got off the phone with Ed Margolis just a couple minutes ago. The official line is, if you need AV equipment for your presentation, plan on bringing it to Boston. The unofficial line is, and I'm authorized to say this, we will have 2 projectors available at the convention. And pretty much this is on a first come, first served basis. So if you need a projector, for example, you need to contact Bruce ASAP. You've got the email address right there. And literally, if we're not using it, you can have it. But we can't guarantee that. We'll try to coordinate that, but again, if there's any possibility, if you can beg, borrow a steel projector for your PowerPoint presentation, try to bring it to Boston. If not, please contact Bruce ASAP. Number 2, if you're planning on using a handout, and we hope you do have a handout, that's important, bring your own copies. We are not going to make copies for you. So keep those 2 things in mind. We strongly encourage you to use AV. It's certainly, like this presentation, it adds to the presentation, but you have to be aware of what's happening with the equipment and what's available. So please, if you're planning on using AV, practice your presentation with it. Remember, you do have a time constraint, and we're going to talk about the questions and answers, but revise the presentation. Obviously, you can't fit an hour-and-a-half presentation into 1 hour. That's not going to work. And be aware of what you're going to say, and that's going to take some practice. Remember, when you practice, pause and breathe. Don't go through it at breakneck speed. You want people to understand what you're saying. Remember that you're going to have your stories, you're going to have your conversation. When you practice, again, use a timer. Be aware of the time, and please plan to leave time for questions. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's a very important part of the presentation, to give people a chance to ask questions and share stories. Number 3, know your audience. I found it very helpful to get to the room early, get set up, and greet people as they come in the room. If you don't know people, introduce yourself. Find out where they're from, find out what their role in their club or region are, and that's going to help you make the presentation. You'll find out what people are there for, what they're interested in, and even at the last minute, you'll be able to add some things to your presentation that's going to address their needs. Also, if you've never done a presentation, it's a lot easier to talk to a group of friends than to a group of people that you don't know. Again, find out who you're speaking to. Are they club officers? Are they club members? Regional folks? You want to know what people are looking for. And if you have a chance to talk to them a little bit before the presentation, you'll find out. Okay. Number 4, prepare and know the room. We would like for you to dress a little bit nicely. I know that Bruce promised to do this in black tie this evening. I don't think I noticed that. But, try to wear a t-shirt. Try to dress up a little bit. Slacks and a shirt are fine. But try to look a little bit sharp. You'll stand out. You'll feel better about what you're doing. And people will recognize you as the presenter. Scan out the room when you get to the convention. Try to figure out on the first day, if you're coming on Wednesday, go find the room, see how it's set up. You know, even when you get to the room, you may want to rearrange the chairs a little bit, but figure out where you're going to be. Obviously, you want to make sure that if you're using AV equipment, that's set up. If you're bringing your own, you've got time to set it up. And really, remember, this might get down to even bringing your own extension cord. You know, we're not going to promise you anything at this point. So just be ready to go at the appointed time. Again, make sure you have what you need. And again, in reference to the AV equipment, go back to number 2 and make sure that we're all on the same page with that. Relax. Begin by addressing the audience. Talk to the folks. It's going to buy you a little bit of time. Calm your nerves. And as you get started and you find that you are a little bit nervous, it's perfectly okay to take a little bit of time, smile, count to 3, you know, do the old 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 bit, take a breath and begin. We said that being a little bit nervous is perfectly fine. Hopefully you can transform that nervous energy into some enthusiasm to what you're doing. Certainly you can probably tell, and Bob can certainly tell you, this is the first webinar I've ever done, and even though I spent 30-something years in front of college classrooms, this is certainly a new ball game. So I can certainly tell you I was a little bit nervous at the beginning of this, but like anything, as you get into it, you get used to it. Remember, as you speak, you are making a presentation. You don't want to go, running through your presentation in 5 minutes. You want to make sure you speak in a clear, strong, evenly paced voice. One of the big problems that I have, as you can probably tell, and many Southerners, we just speak too fast. So remember to slow down. Take a breath and pace yourself, and remember you're practicing, and that's the speed you want to go. And tell yourself, even if it's not completely true, that you're the expert, and people are there to learn something from you. As you probably know, we're going to have numerous sessions each hour. And people that show up for your session are specifically interested in your session. So that's the good news. They're there to learn something from you. And, we wouldn't have you doing this if we didn't think you were the expert. Visualize yourself giving your speech. So think about making that speech and your voice and the way you're coming across, and that image will be helpful. Also, visualize the audience clapping, kind of have them give you a round of applause. That will boost your confidence. Think about that. So, you're there for a reason, and we want you to do a good job. Now, one thing a lot of people will tell you, that if you're nervous, focus on one person in the room, and just pretend that that's the person you're talking to. You're not talking to a room full of people, you're talking to that one person. And this may help you stay focused. So think about that. Pick out someone and focus on them and just pretend that that's who you're talking to. A lot of times that can help you calm down and pace yourself. Remember, everybody sitting there wants you to be successful. They're looking for you to inform them. They want you to be interesting. They want you to be stimulating. They want you to be informative and entertaining. So everybody sitting there is rooting for you. And keep that in mind. That will be helpful. They're there to learn from you, and you have the information they need. So think about that. Now, if you start your presentation and you find that you're still nervous, just kind of blow that off. It's best not to apologize for being nervous or having a problem. The reality is, and I can tell you that again, I've done, if you look at my Vita, my resume, I've probably done, I don't know, probably 80, 90, 100 presentations in anything from a small group to very, very large groups. In fact, I just made one early last week to about 80 people. And I still get a little bit nervous at the beginning, and that's okay. You just tell yourself that's okay. The reality is people are probably not going to notice that you're nervous. And I don't mean to slight you in any way, they're probably not there for you. Chances are they don't even know you. They're there for your message. They're there for the information. They're there for your presentation. So again, the focus is not on you. The focus is on the material. And I found it helpful to keep the focus on the material and don't think so much about yourself or the way you're presenting it. You'll come across fine. People will drag stuff out of you if you forget about it. So concentrate on the message. Again, that's why people are there. Don't focus on your anxieties. Concentrate on the message. Concentrate on the audience. And this is where the practice is going to pay off. You're going to go through, hopefully, the presentation the way you practiced it, at a good pace, at a good speed. Remember to watch your time. That's one thing that particularly people that haven't done many presentations, that's where things can get out of hand. People, again, for whatever reason, they try to shove an hour-and-a-half presentation into 1 hour, and that is not going to work. And again, I want to put a lot of emphasis on the Q&A, the questions and answers. I've done a number of presentations at convention, and I can tell you that both from a presenter standpoint and also from being in the audience, again, no offense to all of you making a presentation, but typically the most interesting part of the presentation is not the presentation, it's the time afterward for question and answer. What you're going to find, again, if you're making a presentation on fundraising or programming or involving young men in your club, you're going to find that people out in the audience have a lot of experience, typically with various aspects of your presentation of the issue, and they're more than happy to share their experience. So not only would I encourage you to do Q&A, but it gets really interesting, and typically what I do a lot of times is simply sit down and let people have a discussion. And they're very happy typically to talk with each other and ask each other questions and provide answers and provide experiences and stories. And again, even as a presenter, I found that typically sometimes can even be more interesting than the presentation. The presentation kind of acts as a prompt, if you will. So please, I would encourage you, and I'm not talking about 5 minutes here, I mean even 15, 20 minutes sometimes. So if you got an hour and 15 minutes, for example, just plan on making about a 50 or 55 minute presentation and leaving time. And again, let people know in the beginning that there's going to be time at the end, and you're looking forward to the Q&A. Typically, you will learn a lot from that also. And again, people are very happy to share, so please, as you make your preparations and you do your practice, just because we give you an hour and 15 minutes doesn't mean you should be making an hour and 15-minute presentation. Let me just back up just for a second. One more point, and that was on the handout. Strongly encourage you to have a handout available. You can do that a couple of different ways. It may be some bullets on your presentation. You just want to make a little, almost a kind of a bulleted high points of your presentation, leave room for people to take some notes. You may just want to provide some other information on that. People will tell you there are different ways to handle the handout. A lot of people will tell you to wait and hand the handout at the end of your presentation. If you hand it out at the beginning, they'll just be reading the handout and not paying attention to you. I typically distribute the handout at the beginning of the presentation. I think, hopefully you'll have a room host. Let the room host hand out the presentation if that's what you want to do. I found that people like to take notes on the handout, and if they don't have it, it's difficult to take notes. So that's your call. You can distribute the handout in the beginning. You can wait to distribute at the end. There's no right way or wrong way. You do that any way that you please. But have one. Get a handout. And again, the note, bring your own handouts. We're not going to be able to make them for you. How many do you need? Probably if you make 50, it will be enough. Reality is maybe too many. But the rooms, and I will let Bruce and Norm correct me if I'm wrong. I think most of the meeting rooms are going to handle about 50, 60 people. So if you bring about 50 or so, you'll have enough. We'll get some clarification on that in just a minute. And finally, this is going to help you gain experience, which is a good thing. Remember, you're the authority, you're the person making the presentation. If you haven't done a presentation, or if you haven't done too many of these, the more of these you do, the more confidence you're going to gain. And it's also the key to effective speaking. Just like this webinar where I'm realize there's some things I could have done better. The more of these you do, the more effective you're going to be. And the nice thing about presenting to FJMC audiences is that, yeah, it's a safe, friendly environment. It's a great way to get experience. You don't have to be scared. You don't have to be nervous. You're among friends, and it's a nice way to break the ice and to do this. All right, and I think that is it. So, Bob, I will turn it back over to you for our Q&A session.
Okay, thank you, Bill, and thanks for working through that. I'm going to use my prerogative as the host here to just make a couple of comments, because I actually work on some training on presentation on PowerPoint, which, the worst thing in the world in a presentation like this, and you alluded to that, is death by PowerPoint. So you want to just use your points in your presentation or what's on the screen or in your handout just to illustrate what you're saying, not stand up there and repeat verbatim, which I see often in Department of Defense presentation, verbatim what's on the screen. You'll lose your audience quickly that way. And the other point is, I guess it can go both ways. I kind of agreed with you on the issue of distributing it perhaps before, because that way people can relax. They see what's on the paper. They don't have to be distracted by taking notes, where there's also an argument for distributing it at the end. So I'm going to shut up now and ask Bruce Tomar, and I'm going to turn his microphone and video on, and
Can you hear me now?
Norm Kurtz. Yeah, you have to turn your if you want to be seen there, Bruce. Okay.
Okay.
And
I'm back.
And Bruce put on a shirt for us and everything.
Boy,
I didn't wear a tie. I forgot. I totally forgot about the
black
tie.
tie. I'm very disappointed.
I
And
Very disappointed.
Norm, if you want to be on, you can turn your. There you go.
I
And
would,
I'm
And
gonna,
here's Norm.
if Bruce
I think I'm
and
there.
Norm
Next time I'll
could-
wear a shirt.
No, that's good. If Bruce and Norm could speak a little bit about the rooms and the setup of the rooms, the capacity of the rooms, what people might find when they get to Boston.
Okay, well, I actually haven't seen the rooms. Alan Budman can probably answer that question better. My impression is that most of the rooms where the breakout sessions are, especially in the morning, probably around hold about, I would say, easily 30 to 50 people. Alan Budman, if you're still in the chat room, you can say yay or nay, but I think that's about correct. And I saw a couple questions about how many copies, and I think you were right, Bill. I think 30 to 50 copies is a pretty safe rule of thumb. And there was another question about, since I have the floor, it's another question about having a copy of the program out to everybody, and that will happen. I will send a copy of the program to my training team, and they will distribute it to all the consultants. Norm, did you want to jump in for anything?
I have no information about the rooms. I'm waiting for, it says that Alan Budman is typing. I'm waiting for an answer.
Okay.
So,
I would assume
because
all the
I don't
rooms
know.
are going to, Norm, the rooms are going to be set up theater style, I would assume.
You're asking me. I have no idea.
Well, the rooms can probably be set up any way you want it to be,
Right.
either theater style or in the round. It depends on the speaker and how he wants to work the room.
One
I
note
was
on
going to say,
that.
Bill, that
Here we
Go ahead.
Here we go.
okay.
There are 3
Well, this-
rooms that are capable of being doubled, which hold 80 people, and there are 8 rooms which hold about 40.
all right, so 30 to 50 is about right.
Yeah, figure 40. One note for folks, just as a courtesy, when you get to the room, and I'm going to assume they're going to be set up theater style, which is typical in hotel meeting rooms. And if you want to go into a round, if you want to do something with the chairs, my assumption is that's okay. When the session is over, you put it back the way you found it. Please.
Okay, and we have a comment from Peter Gottlieb, if you can see this, that praising Bill for his job and also saying that presenters should be aware of in advance or focus on what their audience is supposed to be, whether it's regional officers or club officers, so that their presentation can be geared to that
Right.
audience.
And I think the point on that is we're having different tracks at the convention, and you may be presenting in the regional officer track or the club officer or club track, and
Right.
you need to be aware of that in advance to gear the presentation to the folks in that track.
Right. And
There's
and
something
they-
else I
they-
wanted to add, if I can.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Bill mentioned to be aware of the time, and that's very important in convention because convention is very tightly scheduled.
Right.
All of them in the past have been, and I'm sure this one's going to be no exception. So if you run over, you're really doing a disservice to the people that are in your sessions because they really need to get to the next section on time. And so I really encourage you to be aware of the time and to honor the time and to finish in advance. The other thing I wanted to say, using Bruce Tomar's line, I have the mic, is Bill was talking about Q&A, and what most people think about is, so you're going to sit back and wait for people to ask you questions. It's also a very good idea to ask questions of them and get them thinking. People come to convention not to be lectured to. They come for answers, but they also come to talk and to share. And so if you see that that's not happening naturally, make it happen in your room. Make the sharing experience happen. It helps bonding. It helps them relax, depending upon what day of convention it is. And they still may be, if this is Thursday morning, they're still trying to feel their way around if they're, first timers or even second timers. So sharing is very, very important. Make sure that you go around the room and introduce everybody. These are very basic things, so that when they leave the room, they might, recognize that person later on at convention. The session that you're leading is not in a bubble, or not in a vacuum, excuse me. It's part of the convention experience, and so you want to make it part of the convention experience.
Yeah, and I would add something to that. It's a very, very good point, Norm. One of the things I like to do is, and again, you don't have to wait to the end of your session for Q&A. One of the things I like to do is have questions in the presentation. So if you're doing a presentation on fundraising, just like class, I'll say, okay, I want to hear 3 great ideas that y'all have done on fundraising recently. Who's got an idea? All right, number 2, who else had a great fundraising idea? Get them to talk, but put questions in the middle of your presentation. There's no rule that Q&A has to be just at the end. Again, it's very, very important what Norm said. This is supposed to be sharing. And don't wait for the end of your presentation to do that. The other point on the time is, remember, not only does your audience have someplace to be at the end of your presentation, it's very possible that your room is being used in the next hour, so you got to get the heck out of there.
Absolutely.
So don't hold up the next person, please. All right, who else? Somebody else. Any questions out there? Any comments or suggestions? As I've said, I saw the list of participants. You got a lot of experience sitting out there in the audience. So let's type some questions in.
Well, Mark Geisers just wrote a note that's a good note. Bill, maybe
Go ahead,
you want to.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So Mark is relaying the experience that when he was in a room, the presenter took some time and had everybody introduce themselves and maybe greet the guy sitting next to them, so that, again, there's this camaraderie that's developed, so that when they go into the next room or into the dining room, they recognize a face, they see somebody that they were at a session with, and it just makes the convention a better experience for everybody. So good comment, Mark. Thank you.
Yep, and I would add that if you happen to have a small group at your presentation, maybe 10 or 15 guys, go around the room and let people introduce themselves.
Right, and if you notice, Peter Gottlieb also had a very important comment about, watching your time and how you probably should gauge yourself, when everybody can see that.
Yep. Yep. And some people actually, you've seen people take their wristwatch off and put it on the podium. You don't have to do that, but if that helps you, fine.
And, now that we have all this technology available, even, if you have a laptop with a webcam on it, even, you can practice your presentation, right? You don't even need a fancy video camera or anything. You can just, deliver it, to practice it. There's nothing like seeing yourself back,
right,
to be able to practice.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And if you're not going to do that, you can use a mirror or something, but you really want to actually do the presentation, make the presentation, not just once. And a big part of that is the pacing and the time. Again, a common mistake is people just try to shove too much into 50 or 55 minutes, and that's a mistake, because it can take longer than that, because you're going to get stopped, you're going to ask questions, so just be aware of that. Don't try to do too much.
Yeah, one point I just wanted to reiterate that Bill had mentioned on, actually, I think on the first slide, is that, I forgot what it was already.
Oh, here, I'll go back. That's all right. We can go back. That one? Number one.
The next one, yeah, that one. To have more, yeah, to have more than you're speaking about in your repertoire. I know one point that Captain Ruach, Bert Fishman, always points out: is don't wing it. Have your prepared presentation, but as Bill says, no more than what's in your speech, because when you get to Q&A, which is actually probably the larger part of your presentation,
Right.
You want to be able to have answers, or at least direct people where to go for further information.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, there are other sources out there, obviously, for programs. We've got a huge bank of programs, of former torch awards, for example. There's a lot more stuff out there, but just be familiar with your material, and please be familiar with the information that's on the FJMC website. Not a bad idea to go on to that and do a little bit of research. And if you're doing a session on particular programs that relate to torch awards, you know, what's happened in the last 3 or 4 years. There's been some interesting winners, and the information's there.
I think we have a couple of points in here in the chat that should be noted. Miles asked if there are plans for all the handouts to be collected and made available after convention, for example, on the website. Now that involves, I think, a couple of different areas of responsibility. So whoever's coordinating the consultants perhaps might be a person to collect them, but then Alan Cahan would know perhaps about, you know, what we could do with the website.
Well, if someone's actually coordinating that, the easier thing to do would be to have people send in the handout electronically as an attachment.
Yes, right.
If they had
Peter
a place to
also
send it.
Peter also made a point about having, you know, different versions of your presentation. Perhaps once you feel out what the room is like, I can see that for example, if you get a talkative audience who wants to interrupt you with a lot of questions, you might redirect your presentation, shorten the actual presentation to allow for more interaction. And Dave Mandel said to make sure that your contact information is in the handout.
Yeah, please put down your name, your position, and it'd be nice if you had a phone number and the email.
Okay, and Alan said that if people can send him the PDFs of their handouts, so post them.
There you go. Can we get that information out somehow to the presenters to send Alan their handout?
I have an email. You know, I mean, I can help in a follow-up too. Others can make this point, but I have the email list of all the consultants that I got from Dave and Al Mervyn that I've been sending out information about this presentation.
Do you have Steve Lessman's list also, Bob?
I don't know. I have the list. That's the regional list.
That's the regional officers list. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll get it from Steve too, and because I wanted to send out to that list once this is online. I can send out. I planned, as I followed up with the first webinar, to send out you know, a copy of Bill's PowerPoint, as well as the link to the video of this session.
Well, Alan just asked for the names and email addresses of the presenters, and he'll give them the same information when he's looking for. So if we can get Alan that information, he'll get taken care of.
Yes, have fun.
Have fun. Enjoy.
Okay, thanks.
Have fun.
Thanks, Miles.
Miles, take care.
Convention to have fun.
That didn't mean go to Kiddish Club before your presentation.
Always after.
In line with that, Bill made the point earlier that you should get to the room early and make sure it's set up the way you want it to be set up. And that's a very valid point. And then Peter made the point, and you should get to know your room and try to get a feel for who's coming in. One of the most important things I think you can do is make people welcome those that are coming into your room. So you should not be setting up your room as they're walking in. You should have already done that. About 5 minutes before the program's supposed to start, you should be at the doorway greeting people as they're coming in, trying to get to know who they are and make them feel warm and comfortable that they're in the right place. And if they're not in the right place, direct them to go to the right place. They may think they're in a room for a presentation on fundraising when you're making a presentation on, ritual or something. So you want to make sure that everybody's in the right place, and you want them to feel comfortable and warm. Introduce yourself, find out who they are. It's all part of this convention experience. I keep coming back to that, but I think that's our role as consultants, is not only to make a presentation on a topic, but also to make that person feel good about being at convention.
Let me flip that, and I want both Bruce and Norm to respond to this question, and we've all seen this happen at convention, where you try to go into a room for a particular session and it's full, it's jammed. That happens.
Okay.
Any comments?
Well,
besides
the
having people
comment
sit on the
is-
floor, which I've done.
Yeah, well, my comment would be for the consultant to, to make as many people, make everybody feel comfortable, no matter what you have to do, make that other person feel comfortable, even if he sits to sit on your lap. So, come on in. There's always room. Turn no one away.
And I think I'll be paying attention to this because these will be the guys who are the perfect candidates for future webinars, right?
Right.
These will be my first victims in developing getting more people to present online, right? Because
Yeah.
Are we planning to have room hosts for the rooms, or is the presenter going to be on their own?
Good question. My experience is to try to have a room host with the presenter. It may work out that the presenter may be on his own in some of the cases. The room host would probably be one of the training team, either myself or my training team will be walking around and try to be a room host. Of course, we can't be in every place, but we'll try to be as many places as possible.
Okay. And if you've got a room host, obviously, if things are starting to get crowded, hopefully the room host can handle that situation, either get people sitting on the floor or whatever, or quite possibly send them to another session. You can't be two places at the same time. That may be a good idea to try to cover as many rooms as possible with a room host.
Yeah.
okay.
Peter's
noted.
writing a note encouraging room hosts.
Yes, I think it's important. And you should know what other sessions are going on that hour, and it may be that you need to redirect people to another session.
Agreed.
Okay.
Particularly with the registration we have right now.
Yeah, really. I heard it was 500.
Yeah, right.
It was just announced a little while ago.
Yep.
All right. I think we're starting to lose people.
Okay.
So I think I had said that we would go until about 9:45. So unless anybody has any concluding remarks, Bill?
Yeah, just have fun with this. I think it's a very good point. It's fun to do a presentation. Do your homework. Do your practice. Try to develop a interesting handout, not something just plain. Make sure it's informative. One thing I didn't say, you keep that to one page. It's you don't need a 10-page handout. typically you can get most of what you want on one page. Again, it looks like you need to bring about 40 copies. The last note, again, the AV, we encourage you to use AV, but please be aware, if you're not bringing your own, it's going to be a scarce commodity, and you need to get hold of Bruce ASAP.
Okay, great. Bruce or Norm, any other points from you?
No, I just want to say nice presentation, Bill.
Thank you.
Wonderful, Bill. And a great format, Bob.
Yeah, very
nice.
good. Very well done, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And I'm going to be putting this online soon on YouTube. I've captured the video, and I'll put it up on YouTube, and I'll circulate the link, both Bill's presentation and the link to this video. So please share it widely with members and other presenters.
Just a note that just came across, Bob, that obviously a lot of people did not attend this, and I'm certainly willing to do this again in a week or two. We can certainly repeat this if you think that's necessary.
Well, I really don't think, since I am recording it,
Okay.
and the way I can put it on YouTube, and if with my experience with the first one, the resolution is high enough so that people can read the chat comments even in the YouTube video, so you see exactly what you're seeing now on the screen there, and so
Good.
So you don't really need to repeat it.
Okay.
Right.
Good job.
I would say as long as, since you have the list of all the presenters, their emails, just make sure that they get the link.
That I will, and I'll get the other list from, apparently I may not have everybody because of the regional list with Steve Lessman, so I'll work on that.
Very good.
Excellent. Thank you again.
Thanks,
gentlemen.
guys.
Thank you. Excellent work.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.